Director, the organizing committee of this illustrious event, ladies and gentlemen, greetings. When I received the invitation to come speak here, I was reminded of the great African legend who gave prominence to African literature. Spirits such as Professor Eskian Patlele, who once said in 1988, and I quote, "I am an irrepressible teacher, and I'll teach anywhere I'm invited to, as long as I'm not asked to play the role of a token nigger." It's on this premise that I've warmly welcomed the invitation to grace your territory. Thank you for the invitation. But overall, before I start, I saw in the program that the minister, the deputy minister was here, so I extend my greetings to him, and also my fellow comrades, Petzen Mandesa, and the CEO, of course, of this organization, Ms. Felang Yende. Our human mind is an amazingly complex biological organ, and yet it is equally an incredibly pliable intellectual and social tool, and perhaps even the most pliable of all tools. It is at once impressionable and impressive, a source of wonder and woo. In that sense, it accounts for the very fickleness that we see so often in human society. And yet, it is ultimately these very contrasting attributes of our mind that give us the capacity as individuals, as communities, as nations to adapt to new ways and demands of living, to aspire for greater spiritual and material horizons, to think of life in ways that may have seemed only an illusion a few days before. Whatever the choice is, each specific skill competency is strengthened by the realization, firstly, that it is after all achievable, and that belief in turn reinforces the drive to ascend to an even higher level of achievement. This is thus a self-perpetuating process, but luckily it is of beneficial in the first place. As it is known, our minds are equally adept at learning non-beneficial habits, including various kinds of vices. But equally, it is important to acknowledge the fact that no life on this earth can be self-sustaining in the absolute sense. We each still will always depend on others for our ability to negotiate the many trials of life. In a social context, much of who we are derives from the experiences we had at the various stations of our growing path. Thus, it is equally true that the life values we hold, the superstitions that both sustain and handicap us, the aspirations that harbor in our perception of life, of true self-worth, are still all a complex synthetic product of our many encounters in life. Educational aims in the new order, connecting the dots, getting to the communities. In the previous years, former Minister Blade proposed a challenge to the nation that what is the meaning of education to a lay person on the ground? And some of us who were rather too vocal said the real challenge for all generations, however, has been to define a working balance between the explicit and the implicit aims of education in the context of its social setting. And we in South Africa are currently having to grapple precisely with this challenge. And indeed, the ongoing debate on the Africanization of our education in South Africa is but a manifestation of this context to define the meaning and hence the ideology of education. We cannot win the war against ignorance and criminality, against the economic want and social slovenliness, if we persist in blaming our children for our failures to make them believe in the virtues of the future. On the other hand, we cannot simply preach such virtues and hope they will be taken at face value unless we exemplify them in our very everyday lives, in communities and activities that we do. So the latter points are especially pertinent as an evolving society tends to demand a constant validation of the meaning and value of education. And indeed, this meaning is itself at a critical impasse, considering that unemployment has become such a persistent feature even amongst the most educated classes in our society. The literacy and the real life experience at grassroots influencing policy. Whereas everyone can be, and ideally should be, in today's society, computer literate. In today's information society, this does not mean that everyone needs to be a computer expert. There will always be room for technical experts in any intellectual activity, but still, the rest of us should at least be able to engage the functional aspects of these activities. Besides, this is one of the ingredients needed to engender a technological culture which South Africa urgently needs at present. What South Africa desperately needs at this stage of our development are innovative approaches towards problem solving in education, heritage preservation, and specifically on memory bank and digital innovation. Because we can no longer use a linear, one-dimensional mode to negotiate such a complex situation as has developed in our society. And ultimately, the determinant of how far our society shall advance is ourselves as a collective. The first hurdle, as alluded previously, is the attitude that still prevails amongst us, the cynicism and the self-doubt. As I had said already, it is about time we challenged and set ourselves higher goals as envisaged in the NDP 2020 division, and believe that this indeed are achievable. We should not allow the old ways to forever shackle us. So in closure, let us one tell one that indeed this dream is not beyond our reach. One wise man once said, your associations determine your elevation. So in a layman's words, how far or how high we go in life is greatly influenced by the people we hang around with. And I wonder how many of you have seen previously the TV advert that says, avoid the element of surprise, scrutinize. Before I close, I'm reminded of the quote by Professor Gallagher that says, we all live with an untidy mess of contradictions caused by the human condition. The future is in your hands, and I pray to God that you give the wisdom to follow your stars. Thank you.
Thank you
I
very,
think there
very
should
much.
be a PowerPoint presentation just to illustrate what has been done on the ground. Two minutes, just go through it. Does this thing work? How do I change it? Oh, okay. So this is one of the projects that we've been able to do in rural South Africa, in KZN. I'll get straight to the major. This is what community education and training practically speaks about. I'm not sure if it's visible, but I'm sure you get the grips of it. Sure.